Hey everybody, Greg Davis here. In this video I'm going to show you how to create web graphics using Adobe Fireworks. Now you probably know Photoshop, and Photoshop is great, I love it, it's the best photo editing program, but Fireworks was designed specifically to create screen graphics and optimize graphics for the web. And it's much better when it comes to creating web graphics, so that's why web designers use it. And you can download a free trial of Fireworks, just sign up at adobe.com and you can download a fully functional trial. So when you open Fireworks, you're going to see the start screen, as you can see right here. I'm going to create a new document. Fireworks uses an enhanced version of the PNG format as its native file format, and it maintains all the information in the file, all the layers and everything. It's pretty much like the Photoshop PSD format. Okay. Canvas size. Actually, all my web graphics are going to be stored inside this document, and I need some real estate, so I make it 5,000 pixels wide and 5,000 pixels high. It should be enough. Resolution doesn't matter now because I define the canvas size in pixels. Canvas color, actually you can change it anytime, but I go with transparent. Click OK, and I have a brand new document. Let's save it first. Okay, you need a site folder for every website project, so I just create a new folder. Your site folder name could be something like yourdomainname.com, but I'm gonna name it as site1. And inside my site folder, I create a new folder for my Fireworks documents. I'm gonna name it as Fireworks. File name also could be something like your domain name, but again I'm gonna name it as site1. File format is PNG, as I mentioned before. I just click save, and now you can see the Fireworks user interface, and I'm gonna show you everything you need to know when we get there. But let's start working now, because that's how you can actually learn stuff, by doing, right? So I recommend you do everything I do on the screen, and you're gonna master Fireworks very quickly. And I started from scratch just like you. So let's get started. I need some cool web graphics I can use. And web graphics are typically the place where people stumble and fall, and yet it's one of the easiest things to create, because once you understand where to find good graphics and recognize them, the internet is crammed with great graphics that you can nick or rip. And even Picasso had a saying. He said, good artists copy, great artists steal. So I'm going to show you how to get a design, edit it, make it to your own so it's different and it stands out. One of the best places to find great web graphics, other than just searching for images on the internet, is templatemonster.com. They deliver the best templates on the net, just like they say, and they really do. They have templates created by the best web design studios in the world. And here on the site you can search by category and find templates that are designed specifically for your market, or you can even search by color, so that's pretty cool. I'm going to search for website templates, click apply, and I check out the, let's say, design category, apply, and search. Let's see what I got. Okay, I've got almost 600 templates to get ideas from, which is insane. It's a lot of templates. And here you can actually buy templates and get a full design, but I'm not gonna buy any templates now. Obviously, I'm just shooting this video for you. But I try to get one and copy it. Like this one is pretty cool. Let's check it out. Okay, this one is perfect for an exercise. So I'm going to copy this header image and paste it in Fireworks. Just right click on the image, or hold down your control key and click on the Mac and choose copy image. Now if you can't copy the image for some reason, maybe it's a flash file or whatever, then you can capture your screen. On the PC keyboard there is a key called print screen, and it basically captures your entire screen. On the Mac you can press Command-Shift-3 to capture the entire screen, or Command-Shift-4 to capture a part of the screen that you select. And once you've done that, you've copied the image. Let's go back to Fireworks, and I press Ctrl-V or Command-V on the Mac and paste my image in. I'm going to zoom in a bit, Now there are a lot of different ways to zoom in fireworks. You can use the magnification tool right here, and you can choose any of these preset zoom values. You can also press Ctrl plus or minus to zoom, Command plus or minus on the Mac. Or you can just hold down the Control key and use the scroll on your mouse. It's the same thing. But make sure you select the object you want to zoom in, because fireworks is going to zoom in on the middle of your selected object. If nothing's selected, then on the middle of your canvas. So make sure you select first and don't get lost in your canvas. But you can also use the zoom tool up here, or just press Z and click and drag over the area you want to zoom in. I'm going to zoom out a bit. Alright. Cool. And if you need some real estate, you can collapse your panels down to just icons by clicking this arrow up here. You can expand them back out by clicking again. Or you can also press your tab key and hide or show all your panels and tools. Or by pressing the F key a couple of times, you can access the full screen mode. And these are pretty handy if you need some real estate. Now I'm going to edit my image. First I'm going to delete the lower part. And then I'm going to get rid of this text, logo, and search field as well. But before you do anything, make sure you select your image first. Some designer had a saying, he said, to have an effect, you must select. And it really applies to fireworks. So I grab my pointer tool, select my image, and then I grab my marquee tool and select the area I want to delete. Okay, I zoom in a bit just to make sure I only delete the white part. I can move my selection using the arrow keys on my keyboard. I can move 10 pixels if I hold down the Shift key. Or if I hold down the spacebar, I can scroll on my canvas using the mouse. And also, if I hold down the Shift key, I can add to my current selection, or if I hold down the Alt key or Option key on the Mac, I can get rid of the selection. Also, there are many different types of selection tools, like marquee tool, oval marquee tool. I have lasso tool, polygon lasso tool, and a magic wand tool as well. So you can use any of them, but my selection is fine. So I just press my delete key and delete the lower part. Cool. I press escape to deselect, or if it doesn't work, I just right click and choose deselect. Okay, I'm gonna zoom out a bit. I'm gonna select my image and zoom out. And now I'm gonna get rid of the text and logo and search field. But before I start editing my image, I create a copy of it and keep an original version just in case. So I hold down my Alt key or Option key on the Mac and click the image, grab a copy and drag it over here. Okay, I zoom in and I get my rubber stamp tool. The way rubber stamp tool works is it samples pixels from a location and copies them into the area you want to fix. Let me show you. If I hold down my Alt key and click once, I select the location I want to sample pixels from, and once I let go my Alt key and click again, I copy pixels into that area. See, I can just edit my image, but make sure you're locating an area that's got similar coloration, brightness and detail. Fortunately, I don't have to worry about it since my image has pretty much the same coloration all over it. But I'm going to change the brush size to 50, and I also change the edge to the minimum because I don't need it. You can also change the opacity. For me, 100% is fine, so I just edit my image. Okay, it's all gone. I grab my pointer tool, select my image, and down here at the properties panel I can see the actual size of my image. It's 970 pixels wide and 165 pixels high. And it's pretty cool because the ideal header image is somewhere between 800 and 1000 pixels wide, but I'm going to resize it just a bit. I want to constrain proportions, so I turn this on, and now I change the size to 950 pixels wide. As you can see, the height also changed proportionally. And actually I want to make it even lower, but I don't care about proportions now, since I don't have anything special on my image. If you have people on your image or something, you definitely want to constrain proportions, but with my image it doesn't really matter, so I turn it off and I only change the height to 150 pixels. Okay, now I'm gonna put my own logo and text on it, but first let's talk about the Fireworks user interface, because there are a couple things I want to show you. Here on the left you can see your tools, on the right you can see your panels. If you ever try to find a panel and you can't see it on your screen, the window menu is the place to go. All the different panels are listed here, and there's a checkbox beside the ones that are currently visible, and you can turn off or turn on any panels you need. You can also float panels, like I can grab a panel and just drag it out of the canvas. I can move it around and I can move it back over to its group. There you go. One panel I want to point out for you is the layers panel. Layers help you organize your objects, and any Fireworks document, even if it's a brand new file you've just created, is going to have at the very least a web layer and content layers. The web layer is where web objects are stored, things like slices, where you optimize and export your images for the web. We're going to talk about that later. The content layers are where you store all your visual elements, your images, your text, and all those different things that are in there. Inside my content layer, which is called layer 1, you can see my two images. I can double click on the layer and rename it. I'm going to call it header. And here at the bottom I can create a new layer. I can create a new sublayer, or I can delete any selected layer or object. You can also turn off an object or a layer so I can't see it. Turn it back on. And if I want to make sure an object doesn't get edited, even by me accidentally, I can lock it so I can still see it, but I can't select it or edit it. I'm going to lock my header images, and I'm going to bring in some text. I grab my text tool, and I want my text right here. So I just click and drag. And when I let go the mouse, I can start typing. You can type in your own slogan or whatever your brand requires. I just type in professional web design made easy. Okay, I grab my pointer tool, select my text, and I zoom out a bit, and I change the font family to Impact. Font size will be 35 pixels, and I change the color. I can pick a color here. I can use my color picker, or I can pick any color from the screen. And I pick the color from my original image. And I like the color range, but I want to make it brighter. So I'm just going to adjust it a little bit and make it brighter. Okay. Actually, I go back for a second. You can also experiment with fill options. I'm not going to do that now. So just click away. And here you find all your basic text editing stuffs. You can change the color of the stroke to red, for example. You can change it back to transparent, and you can change the horizontal scale. You can bold your text. You can change the opacity, the blend mode, and you can add light filters. I'm gonna add a drop shadow light filter. Sorry you can't see it. Shadow and glow, and drop shadow. I can edit it. I can change the color of my shadow. I can change the distance. I can change the opacity, the softness, and the angle. And if I click away, I can see my filter right here. I can turn it off. I can turn it on. I can double click it and edit it, or I can add even more filters, or I can just select it and delete it by clicking this minus icon. And the cool thing is, you can experiment with filters as much as you want without affecting your actual object. I mean, you can always go back and edit your filters or even delete them, so filters are cool. I use them a lot. But you can also apply styles to your objects, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. I'll just make a copy of my text real quick, because once you apply a style to an object, it's very difficult to get rid of it. It's not like filters, it's more than that. So I hold down my Alt key or Option key on the Mac and click on my text and drag a copy over here. Okay, I go to my styles panel, and here you can see a lot of different style families. I'm going to check out my wood styles, and I'm going to choose this one. Okay, it looks good. Now if you take a look at your properties panel, you realize that styles are a combination of different fills, strokes, live filters, and Photoshop live effects. This means I can edit the style, and after that I can even save my own style by clicking this little icon here. So that's pretty cool. And you can apply styles to any object, not to just text, even to photographic images, so keep that in mind. Okay, I delete my white text and I reposition this one. Okay, now I'm gonna create some background for my website. Grab my rectangle tool and I just create a rectangle right here. Okay, there's an overlap, so I go to my layers panel and I change the order of my objects. I move my rectangle to the bottom. There you go. Actually I create a new layer for my background. So I create a new layer. I'm going to name it as background. And I grab my background rectangle and drag it over inside my background layer. Okay, there's an overlap again. So I change the order of my layers. And it goes to the top. And now I select my background rectangle. And I resize it to, let's say, 920 pixels wide and 1500 pixels high. Color fill will be white, no stroke, and I get rid of the texture as well. Okay, and I'm gonna add a live filter. Oh, sorry, you can't see it. Shadow and glow, and I change the color to gray, 2 pixels wide. I change the opacity to 75%, softness 10, and offset 0 is fine. Just click away and you can see my glow right here. I change the roundness of my rectangle to 5%. Let me show you. You can see it's rounded right here. And I reposition my rectangle, and once I start moving it, I get these kind of pink smart guides. By default they are turned on, and what they do is they help you align objects based on the position of other objects on your canvas. So based on the position of my header image, I align center. Okay, I lock my rectangle and I get my zoom tool and zoom into this area, and I'm gonna create a triangle and fill out this gap, if you will. I grab my arrow tool and I'll create an arrow. I change the color to gray. I change the size to 100 pixels wide and 50 pixels high. Okay, sometimes when you resize vector objects, you get this little anti-alias edge. If you want to get rid of it, you can either change the edge to hard down here at the properties panel, or you can go to your modify menu and choose snap to pixel. It's going to handle that for you, but I'm not going to do that. I just reposition my arrow using my arrow keys. And if I hold down my shift key, I can move 10 pixels on the canvas. Zoom in a bit. There you go. And I move my arrow to the bottom of my layer, so it's not overlapping my site. And I need a different arrow on the other side. So just select my arrow, go to my edit menu or fireworks menu on the Mac, and choose duplicate. And I just grab this copy and drag it over to the other side. Okay, I have to flip this arrow. I can do it using my scale tool and just rotate manually, or I can go to my modify menu, choose transform and flip horizontal. There you go. I just reposition it. Okay, I lock my arrows so I can't reposition them anymore. And I'm gonna create some background for my website, like right here. So I grab my rectangle tool and I create a large rectangle. I move it to the bottom of my background layer. And I change the size to 1600 pixels wide and 600 pixels high. I reposition it to the top of my header image. And I change the color to gray. Okay, I get rid of my texture. I don't know why it's here anyway. Cool. No stroke. And I want my background to fade from gray up the top down to white down here at the bottom. So I'm gonna apply a mask to my rectangle. I go to my comments menu and choose creative auto vector mask, and I want to go from solid to transparent. So this one is cool. I click apply and I have a fancy fading background. Actually, it looks kind of weird because my canvas is transparent and I can see the checkerboard underneath it. So I select my canvas and I'm going to change the canvas color to white. Okay, I'm going to edit my mask. I go to my layers panel and here you can see the mask applied to my rectangle. If I click on it, I can edit it. You can see a line here appeared. This is the actual fading. I can move it around. I can change the angle. I can make it shorter or longer or whatever I want. And if I want to get rid of it, I just click on the mask, press my delete key and choose discard. Now it's gone, but I'm going to undo these changes by pressing Ctrl Z or Command Z on the Mac. And I'll leave my mask here. It's fine. I just want to make sure it fades out before the end of my actual rectangle, because if it doesn't, I'm not going to have a nice fade out on my background. Let me show you what I mean. If I move the fade out point down here, you can see there is no fade out at the bottom, and it's not nice at all. So I move it back up. Actually, I move it over here and make sure it's on my rectangle. There you go. And the starting point is fine. So I just lock my background rectangle. I just deselect it and lock it. Good. I lock my rectangle, and I'm going to create some logo using vector objects. You already know vector objects. Text is a vector object, rectangle is a vector object, and unlike bitmap objects, which are made of a bunch of pixels, vectors are more of a mathematical formula that describes an object's size, the color it's filling the object, and also the stroke around the object. One of the advantages to vectors is, unlike bitmaps, they can be scaled and there is no degradation in quality. I mean, you can resize a vector object significantly and there is no image quality breakdown whatsoever. But you can do that with bitmap images, obviously. Like this image I got from Template Monster. This is a bitmap image, and like any photographic image, it's made of a bunch of pixels, and if I started scaling it, sooner or later I could see the pixels and it would be fuzzy, so I can't make it any larger than it is. I can make it smaller, but I can't make it any larger. So that's the difference between vectors and bitmaps, and now I'm going to show you how to work with vectors. I grab my pen tool, and the way pen tool works, you can create two different types of lines. You can create straight lines or curved lines. To create a straight line, I simply click once to get the pen started, and then I just drag across. If I click again, I can change direction, so I can move down, for example. If I hold down the Shift key, I can create horizontal or vertical lines. And if I want to add some curves, I click and drag, and when I drag, I get a curve. If I let go of the mouse, I can move further in my design, and I'm maintaining the curve. So I can click again and create a different curve, or if I need a straight line, I just click this point and create a straight line. And I go all the way back to the beginning, and when I get back to the beginning, I can click one more time and close the path. You don't have to do it, but you can. And I can change the color of my stroke, for example. I can make it thicker, and I can even change the fill color. So I have a filled object. I can use the scale tool and rotate my object, or I can scale it, and I can make it as large as I want because it's a vector object. I can also grab my rectangle tool and add to it. Let's add to it. I can even subtract. And if I grab my sub selection tool, I can move these rectangles around. Also, I can get my freeform tool and form my object. There we go. Okay, but this was just a quick exercise, so I delete it and I'll show you the common library symbols. You can find them down here on the right. And here you can find all kinds of different symbols. Let's see what I got inside my 2D objects folder. These are pretty commonly used symbols. You can see them up here. Let's say I want to use these gears for my logo. I just grab it and drag it onto my canvas. I make sure it's inside my header layer. It is. So it's cool. And symbols are vector objects, so you can make them as large as you want without image quality breakdown. I'm not gonna do that, but I want to apply some style to it. Like this one, or maybe this one. This one is cool. Now, if you create your own logo for yourself, make it as simple as possible. The best brands in the world, like Nike or Apple, they all have a simple logo. So make your logo as simple as possible. Okay, so here's my website. And if I want to see my site with text on it, I can bring in some text. But if I don't want to type, I can go to my Commons menu and choose text and lorem ipsum or whatever. And this brings in some text for me, and I can format it and I can create a perfect prototype. Okay, I just wanted to show you this. I delete it now. And I'm going to show you how to create buttons. I grab my rectangle tool and I create a rectangle. I change the size to 240 pixels wide and like 60 pixels high. I change the roundness to, let's say, 60 pixels. And I also change the color. And I want to use the best possible color for my auto button, which is actually yellow. I don't know why, but it's been tested and yellow buttons get the most clicks. So I choose yellow. I grab my text tool and I'm going to create some text. I type in add to cart. Okay, I select my text. I'm going to change my font family to Tahoma. I bold it. Actually, there's two places to bold it. Whatever. This one is enough. I change the size to, let's say, 28 pixels. And I change the color to blue. And I want to make sure my text is align center, so I'm just going to zoom in a bit. Okay, now I select my rectangle. I go to my Commons menu, Creative, Auto Vector Mask, and I choose a fading. This one, click Apply. I'm just going to adjust it a little bit. Cool. I select my text and do the same thing. And I adjust my mask. Cool. And I want to create some reflection for my button. So I select my rectangle, go to my Edit menu or Fireworks menu on the Mac, and choose Duplicate. I move the copy right here. I change the color to gray. I adjust the mask a little bit. Okay, I have a nice reflecting button, but I'm going to create a few more because I want to show you all the different ways to create your buttons. So I select my button, the whole thing, hold down my Alt key or Option key on the Mac, and drag a copy over here. Okay, I delete the reflecting part. I also delete the mask. Choose discard. And I add some live filters, like Photoshop Live Effects. Let's try gradient overlay. I change the opacity to, let's say, like 30. Click OK. And it's pretty cool. Now I have a different kind of button, but let's create two more. I create another copy. And I delete the Photoshop Live Effects, and I apply some style like this one, and I can actually edit the style, so I change the color to yellow. Okay. I also change the color of the stroke to darker yellow, so I adjust it, make it a little darker. Cool. And I change the tip size to 2 pixels. And I want to align stroke to inside to maintain my button size. Good. I create one more button. I go to my common library. And actually I have a buttons folder with some buttons. But I go to my HTML folder. And I got a button here, for example this Mac button. I grab it and drag it onto my canvas. Okay, I'm gonna change the label. So I go to my symbol properties panel, and here I can change the label. I type in add to cart. Okay, I just hit enter and now it's on. Okay, so there are a lot of different ways to create your buttons. You can also find a button on the internet, edit it, make it to your own, and I'll show you how to do that as well. But I'll show you that on a check mark, not on a button, because I need a check mark as well. So I go to Google and I typed in check mark, and I search for images, and I need a good quality image, so I check large. Okay, let's see what I got. This one is pretty cool and pretty large too. So just click on it. And it's a great quality image, not fuzzy at all. So just right click on the image or hold down your control key and click on the Mac and choose copy image. I go back to Fireworks and I just paste it in by pressing Ctrl V or Command V on the Mac. Okay, I select the image and I zoom out and move it over here to the right. And this is a large image, but I want to edit it first, and I resize it after editing, so my editing will be much more difficult to spot. I hope it makes sense to you, but that's how great designers think. So I edit it first. I want to change this green area to blue. So I grab my replace color tool and I switch back to my properties panel. I want to change the color to blue. Okay, I replace color from image and I increase my brush size to the max, which is 100. Tolerance 15 is fine and strength 200 is fine. So I just go ahead and replace the green color. You see this tool is pretty smart. Alright, even if my tool is pretty smart, I replaced the color inside my check mark as well. You can see it's kind of blue here. Could have tried it with lower tolerance, but whatever. I grab my paint bucket tool and fix it. I want to go with a solid color and I'll change it to white. Actually, I pick the color here, even if it's white, I want the same exact color. And now I just click on this blue area. It's gone. There's another one. Click on it as well. Okay, it's all gone. but if I zoom in a bit, I can see some blue pixels on my check mark. So I get my brush tool and get rid of them. Okay. Change my brush color and brush size, let's say 18 is fine. And I just paint these blue pixels manually. Okay, good. I zoom out. And it's pretty cool, but if I select my canvas and change my canvas color to transparent, I can see a white background on my image, which I don't really want because I may end up using this image on a web page where the background is not necessarily white and I want my image background to be transparent. So I select my image and I grab my magic wand tool and I select the white background. Now once I've selected it, I can change tolerance and see how it affects my selection. Okay, one is fine. And make sure your edge is anti-alias because you don't want a hard edge where you can see the pixels. It's not nice. Okay, my selection is fine. So I just delete my selected area by pressing my delete key. Press escape to deselect. And now my image background is transparent. Actually, I want to make sure it's totally transparent. So I select my canvas and I change my canvas color to black for a minute just to make sure my background is totally transparent on the image. Okay, it is, but the lower part of my image is not really rounded. So I select my image and I grab my oval marquee tool and select my image, trying to maintain a curve for the lower part. Now let's try it again. There you go. I can move my selection using my arrow keys on my keyboard. Okay, and I want to delete the outside part of my selection. So I go to my select menu and choose select inverse. Now the outside part of my image is selected, and before I delete it, I want to make sure my edge is anti-alias. Okay, it is. So I press my delete key and now it's perfect, and I'm going to reduce the size anyway, so I just press escape to deselect. I select my image, turn on constraint proportions, and I change the size to, let's say, 36 pixels wide. And now it's pretty small. Okay, I click on my canvas and change the canvas color back to transparent. And I'm going to create a brand new layer to organize my objects. So I go to my layers panel. Actually, I collapse my common library panel down. And create a new layer. I'm going to call it assets. And I want to move my check mark and all my buttons inside my assets layer. There you go. Okay, and I move it to the top so I can always see my images. Okay, Okay, you can also create different individual pages inside your Fireworks document, and you can use them for your different web pages on your website. Like you can create a page for your index.html, another one for your contact us.html, and so on. And if you have a lot of pages but you have some content that is the same on every page, like your background for example, you can set a page as master page, and the master page content shows up on every page, so you don't have to store your background on every page. Just put it on the master page, and if you change it, it automatically updates on every page. So that's pretty cool, but honestly I don't really use it because I never prototype my website in Fireworks. For me, I don't know why, but I think it's a waste of time. It's probably good for web designers who create a website every week. I don't, so I just try to put together my graphics as quickly as possible, and then I work with Dreamweaver. Same thing with the states. States are part of creating animated images and interactive markups. You can create different states of an image and export it to animated GIF format, and it's great, but the best websites in the world don't have animated images at all. But you can also create rollover effects using the states, and I'm going to show you how to do that as well. But I'll show you that in Dreamweaver, not in Fireworks, because it's much better to do that in Dreamweaver. Okay, I have all the graphics I need for my website, so I'm just going to export single images for the web. I switch back to my layers panel, and I grab my slice tool, and I just create a slice, starting out with my header image. Okay, I make sure my slice is covering my header image properly. So I zoom in a bit. And select my slice, and I can resize it. But I think it's fine. Okay, slices are stored inside the web layer. And I'm gonna name my slice as header. And I use lowercase letters only because this is going to be the actual file name, and I export it for the web. I just optimize my image. I go to my optimize panel, and I want to export it to PNG 24 format. And you probably know JPEG is the most popular format on the web, and JPEG really is a good choice for photographic images, but it doesn't handle solid colors that well. Use JPEG for photographic images, it's great, but use PNG 24 for web graphics, or PNG 32 for web graphics that have a transparent background. My header image has no transparent background, so I go with PNG 24, and I export the image. I just right click on my slice, or control click on the Mac, and choose export selected slice. Okay, I need a folder for my website images inside my actual site folder. So I create a new folder, and I'm going to name it as images. Again, I only use lowercase letters because I'm going to store all my website images inside this folder. So this is for the web. Okay, the file name is the actual slice name, and I've already named it, so I just click save. And that's it. Now I'm going to export my buttons as well. But I move my assets to the right because I have to see the checkerboard behind them if I want to export them with a transparent background. So just select my assets layer, zoom out a bit, and move them here to the right. And my check mark, whoops, and my check mark right here. Zoom in, and now instead of using my slice tool, I just select one of my buttons, like this one. Right click on my mouse, or control click on the Mac, and choose insert rectangular slice. And I need a single slice. You can see the slice covers my button perfectly, so I don't have to worry about it. I just name it as bn_order. BN stands for button, and if you have a lot of buttons, it's pretty useful to tag them. Okay, I export it to PNG 32 format because I need it to have a transparent background, like right here. But if you want to export your image with a transparent background, make sure your canvas is transparent as well, and you can see the checkerboard behind your image. My canvas is transparent, so I just right click on the slice or control click on the Mac and choose export selected slice. All my website images go inside my images folder. Just click save, and one button is enough. I export my check mark, I select it, right click on my mouse or control click on the Mac and choose insert rectangular slice. I'm gonna name it as checkmark. You can name your slice here as well. And again, your slice name is gonna be the actual file name, so make sure you don't use uppercase letters on the web. Okay, I right click on my slice or control click on the Mac and choose export selected slice. Click save. And I've exported some of my images, but if I want to have a website that looks like this, I mean fading background and all that, I need those images as well. So I grab my slice tool and I create a slice for my background starting from the top, and I'm going to resize it in just a bit, but I select my background rectangle to see that it's 600 pixels high. So I need a 600 pixels high slice. I go back, select my slice, and I make it 600 pixels high. And it doesn't matter how wide it is because it's going to be repeated horizontally in the CSS code. So I make it as narrow as possible to have a small image for the web, like 1 pixel is fine in terms of constraint proportions, and I make it 1 pixel wide. Cool. And I'm going to name it as bg_body. BG stands for background, and body because it's going to be the background of my body in the CSS code. You will understand it in the next video when we set up the site in Dreamweaver. Okay, I export my slice to PNG 24 format because it doesn't have to be transparent. I select my slice so I can zoom on it, and I right click on my slice or control click on the Mac and choose export selected slice. Click save, and now I'm going to export my actual website background. I mean this white rectangle right here. So I create a new slice, and it has to be exactly as wide as my header image, and my header image is 950 pixels wide, so I need a 950 pixels wide slice, but these red lines can help me out. There you go, it's exactly 950 pixels wide. I just let go of the mouse, and I move my slice to the bottom because I can't have the fading background on it. So I move it to the very bottom. Now this image is also going to be repeated, but this one is going to be repeated vertically. So I change the size to 1 pixel high to get a small image for the web. Make sure you turn off constraint proportions, and I make it 1 pixel high. Cool. And this image has to be transparent because it would have a white border right here, and it would be repeated over my gray background. So I export it to PNG 32 format to make it transparent, and I'm gonna name it as bg_container. It's gonna be the background of my container layer on my website. Again, you will understand it in the next video when we set up the site in Dreamweaver. Now I just export it, select it so I can zoom on it, right click on my slice or control click on the Mac and export selected slice. Click save, and that's it. Zoom out, and I want a rounded corner like this down here at the bottom for my website, so I create a new slice, which also has to be 950 pixels wide, just like my header image. So I make it 950 pixels wide. I'll let go my mouse and I make it 120 pixels high. Just reposition it. And I'm gonna name it as BG_footer. And this image cannot be transparent because my repeated image would show up underneath it, right here at the bottom. So I export it to PNG 24 format. Okay, I right click on my slice, export selected slice, and click save. And the last piece of the puzzle is the header part. I create a new slice. It also has to be 950 pixels wide, just like my header image, but it has to be higher than that to cover this bottom part as well. So I make it, let's say, 165 pixels high. And I'm gonna name it as BG_header. And I export it to PNG 24 format because it cannot be transparent. But before I export it, I turn my header layer off because I don't need my header to be on this background image, and I get a smaller file without it. So I just turn my header layer off. Now I right click on my slice, or control click on the Mac and choose export selected slice. Click save. And I turn my header layer back on. I zoom out and I've exported pretty much all the graphics I need. So I can just go to Dreamweaver and set up the website, but I need just one more image, a fave icon. Now the fave icon is a small icon that appears on your web browser right next to the address bar. It also shows up in your bookmarks and in the tab display as well. So for like Google, this is their fave icon right here. And not every website has a fave icon, so if you're lazy like me, you can skip this part. Most of my websites don't have a fave icon and sell pretty well, but I'm gonna create one for my logo, so it's not gonna take that long. I just turn on my web layer and I grab a copy of my logo and hold down my Alt key and drag a copy over here, because I need it to have a transparent background. Now the fave icon has to be a 32 pixels wide and 32 pixels high image. So I create a new slice and I make it exactly 32 pixels high and 32 pixels wide. Just resize it. There you go. Let's zoom in a bit. Okay. I turn my slice off for a second, and I have to resize my logo to fit in this square. So I turn on constrain proportions and I make it 32 pixels wide. Okay, it's too big, it's 35 pixels high. So I make it 32 pixels high then. Still too big, so I make it 30 pixels high. Let's see. Okay. Now it's good. And I turn my slice back on. I'm gonna name it as fave icon. And I export it to PNG 32 format because I want it to have a transparent background. Okay, I right click on the slice and choose export selected slice, click save, and that's it. Zoom out. Actually, a fave icon should be exported to ICO format, but according to Wikipedia, only Internet Explorer doesn't support a PNG fave icon. Maybe it supports it by now, or it will soon in the future, But if you want to convert it to ICO format, go to icoconverter.com. Actually, I'll show you. Just go to icoconverter.com, upload your PNG file you've just exported. The size must be 32 by 32 pixels, and color depth, this one is fine. Just click convert and it converts it for you. Easy. So now I have all the images I need for my website. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next video, and I'll show you how to set up your website in Dreamweaver. Bye.